So welcome to my Get a Life moment, here with Lisa Davies, that's me, and I am welcoming a wonderful guest this morning, Rosalind Palmer, who is a transformational therapist and coach. Welcome, Ros. Do you prefer me to call you Ros or Rosalind?
Oh, we'll go with Rosalind. Look, I'm really not precious about it, but I'm everywhere as Rosalind, so it probably makes life easier to be.
Yeah, I just wondered whether that might be your Sunday best name. I mean, my Sunday best name is Lisa Jane, but whenever I get called that, I know that I'm in trouble. So Rosalind.
My mum, bless her, she's been gone a long time. I think I knew I was in trouble when it used to be Roslyn. It went into 3 syllables.
That's it.
In trouble, yeah.
You knew that was serious. So obviously I know a little bit about you, but for our listeners and our viewers, who is Rosalind Palmer then? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, well, I used to, many years ago, and I'll go back to that in a minute, I was in PR, and I used to describe myself as a sensible maverick. And I still do. So and also in terms of, when you do like Myers-Briggs and all that kind of profiling stuff, I'm a very interesting mix of left and right brain, and so that's led me to have a very interesting life, because I've never sort of been in one camp. I've got like economics A level, and yet I did a degree in English literature.
Okay.
And so because of that, I think because of that maverick nature I have, but equally because I can buckle down and get on with stuff, I've had some real highs and some real lows. My life has been a bit of a sort of a roller coaster. So who am I? Well, I'm now a transformational therapist and coach, and I find I'm particularly good at it, not just because I'm trained in it and I have lots of certificates on my wall. And I've been a trainer, not doing it now, but I was for a long time. So I really understand the methodologies. I do clinical hypnotherapy, rapid transformational therapy, and then NLP based coaching. So look, I get all of that, but I think what I really bring, and don't we all, is my life experiences, my unique life experiences. So I grew up in Nottingham. I was a grocer's daughter. I came from very humble beginnings, like lived above the shop in the early years till they pulled it down for slum clearance. Went to a massive comprehensive school, and my kind of grandparents were mill workers and miners, so I came from that background, but I ended up going to university in London in the 80s. And so I then went from reading a lot of books for 3 years into the weird and wonderful world of PR, which when I went for the interview for my first job, I was like, I don't even know what it is. What is it? Who knows?
It sounded good.
Well, somebody said, my boss needs a PR. I went, brilliant. I went, what's that? And they said, well, you've got to write like press release. You've got to be good at writing. And this was a theatrical production company, and we do a lot of theatre. I thought, I'm your girl. I'm good at writing and I love theatre, So off I went, and I fell into PR and found myself in theatre PR, and then I moved into publishing, and then I ended up, and some of these weren't great. So I got made redundant, and it was a bit like, ooh, now what in my glittering career? And
don't you think though that when you are made redundant, as difficult as that might feel at the time, it's generally to make way for a new door to open that's even better?
Well, I'm clearly very blessed, Lisa, because I've been made redundant 3 times in my
lots
career.
of good doors opening for you then.
So, and I do agree. My sadly, my partner's son this week, because of the whole corona issue, just got made redundant. And he's only 19, and it's his first job and everything. And of course, I didn't try to be facile about my advice, but I did say to him, look, the 3 times I got made redundant were times to take stock, time to think, and actually they created amazing opportunities. So, you're spot on. So I then went to work for Lynn Franks, which is what Absolutely Fabulous was based on.
Right, yes, of course.
If you've ever watched Absolutely Fabulous, the TV series, and you've ever seen the movie Wolf of Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
the reality was somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
The TV series actually downplays it. So this girl from, Arnold Hill Comprehensive, and, my family have got coal out there, because they were miners and stuff, suddenly in this world where the second day I'm on the Orient Express, and then I do the PR for Ronnie Wood and Rolling Stones and London Lighthouse. I'm having breakfast with Daniel Day-Lewis. I mean, my goodness. But I was always very grounded, my parents brought me up. You've already asked me what would be my takes. I realized very early that I was just very grounded. I was also very focused on doing a good job, doing a good job. So just having that focus, that not being caught up in the madness of it, and that phenomenal work ethic that I'd been brought up with by being a grocer's daughter. I got very rapidly promoted, and then I ended up thinking, I need to know about, because somebody said to me, do you understand marketing? And I thought, no, I really don't.
Yes, I can do that.
Well, I thought I better find out about it. So I then ended up working for the UK's leading marketing company. But that was towards the end of the 80s, sorry. And we went into this kind of recession. Well, not kind of recession, but recession. And I joined one company. It was bought out by another company. That was bought out by another company. So I went from working for a marketing company to working for an advertising agency. All great experience, but very unsettling. And then being made redundant again, in 1991. So it was like, oh, goody. And by that time, I felt I had enough experience. I was 29 with a, massive determination. So I formed my own PR company. I thought, what have I got to lose, really? So I started in my spare bedroom with a bunch of secondhand furniture, and my basset hound, Rosie, was my first member of staff. Genuinely. And I thought, look, I had 2 clients who said, look, we'll give you 6 months work. And I had the redundancy payment. And in my head, I already had a year's money. So I thought, I've got nothing to lose, really. Let's just go for it. And I went from £5,000 redundancy payment and my spare bedroom to 9 years later selling my company when it had a £1.3 million turnover. I mean,
fantastic.
I kind of laugh when I think about it, really. So yes, I found something I was really good at. My first husband was a trained accountant, so he did all the business side of the business. It was a good partnership. But the more successful I became, and of course, for many years, we didn't really make much money. We're building a business, we're paying the staff more than ourselves. Some once we didn't pay ourselves, when look, there's business owners out there. You all know the reality of building a business. It sounds good, but for the first 5 years, it probably was.
It's not that glamorous and lots of working hours.
It's not. And we were renovating a house around us the whole time. So it'd be like, floorboards would be good. What was particularly good was I very early fell into personal development. So somebody said to me, come to this mad course where we're going to do a fire walk. I was like, what are you talking about? And that was in the early 90s. And I went to Unleash the Power Within, Tony Robbins. And I came away like that.
Wow.
And I thought, it was the early days of the internet, but he had a terrible reputation at that time in England. He was seen as some sort of cult leader, and it was all weird. And personal development wasn't what it is today. People were very suspicious of it. He had a bit of a bad rep, to be honest. And I thought, well, he needs some good PR, doesn't he? So I determined that I would do his PR, and I ended up doing his PR. And then I ended up doing the PR for Edward de Bono and Robert Holden and Brandon Bays and the who's who of personal development people at the time. And then I thought, well, I better train in NLP. So I trained in NLP with Richard Bandler, the founder of it. And then I trained in hypnosis with Paul McKenna. So whilst I was still running a PR company, I really, really, knew all of these things. I was very immersed in this world. And that stood me in incredibly good stead, not just as a business, but as a human being. it gave me a lot of tools to navigate those crazy years of building a PR company in the 90s, in the alcohol fueled mad London agency world 90s, where sleep was almost like an optional extra, you know. Thank God, you know, thank God. So I at least had all of those, like stabilizers on a bike. And because of being at Lynn Frank's, interestingly, in the 80s, where everybody was Buddhists and eating macrobiotic food and stuff that I'd never heard of. I remember going home to my mum and dad, and my dad was a grocer going, oh, they eat macrobiotic food. And he goes, we eat vegetables. Like,
I love that.
It was like, okay, what about the meat? You know, but all those things really helped me. So I was able to work crazy hours. I was able to work, you know, I mean, ridiculous hours in a very.
It does catch up with you, though, doesn't it?
Well, this is the point, Lisa. This is my big story. So I thought I'd dodged a bullet. I thought I'd managed to just hang on by my fingernails. So, you know, I was doing the Ayurvedic medicine, the acupuncture, the massage. You know, I had somebody come to my house, do massage every week. I went for acupuncture every week. I was trying to be vegetarian. You know, I was doing all the things I knew how to do, but equally, you know, I'm getting 5 hours sleep. I'm drinking a lot, you know, because it was a very alcohol-based world back in the media of the 90s. You know, drink with lunch, drink after lunch, after work, you know. So there were a lot of really not good things, and then I was balancing them out. And I thought, because my Ayurvedic doctor said to me, I don't know, you're either going to have the mental or the physical breakdown. I'm not sure which one it is. And I thought, I need to get out. I need to get out. Also, I'd adopted a child, and I realized that I hadn't seen him awake for a week. Wow. You know, it was Friday. I remember coming home and going up to his bedroom and then just thinking, the last time I saw you awake was Monday. This has to stop. I cannot do this anymore. So we did manage to get out and sell the business. And I literally was like going, yeah, dodged a bullet. We even moved to the Bahamas because my ex-husband's family lived there, and he took over the family company for a while. And then it all went horribly wrong.
So it sounds like you've had this idyllic life, you know, mixing with the famous stars, anybody in personal development, you've got them on your CV. From the outside looking in, that looks like, wow, what a life.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it? And I did, you know, I had an 8-bedroom house in London, Lisa. I had a driver, I had a nanny. Okay, later in, like I say, the first 5 years, big struggle. But, you know, the last maybe 5 years of the business, you know, I even flew Concorde. You know, we used to go skiing. You know, I had that. It must have looked amazing. But the reality of it was, you know, there used to be a woman who wrote an article and she made it into a book called I Don't Know How She Does It. And, you know, the reality of it was I'd come in at 11 o'clock at night and, you know, we'd adopted my son, and I'd see this note going, tomorrow we're supposed to take something to school. And I'd be crying at the kitchen table, you know, at 11 o'clock at night, you know, trying to make him something, or to, my favorite one was get some ready-made cakes and then disguise them
as homemade ones.
You know, put some flour on and like, pack it about a bit, and then, you know, like, and it sounds funny, but you know what? It's really not funny. It's really not funny when you wake up and you just think, how can I get through today? It's really not funny when you lie awake at night and literally your life feels like those spinning plates and you're like, how do I get through? How? And I'd had some really quite serious illnesses. I had dengue fever, which is like malaria. Wow. I'd lost 26 pounds in weight. And I'd been really ill, but of course I'd never taken enough time off to recover. I'd gone back to work far too soon. I'd depleted myself, and then because I liked being really thin, I became bulimic for good measure, you know, to keep thin. So, you know, there was the reality, and I do get celebs and people, because you know, people go, oh, what they got to worry about, you know. Yeah, well, if it was quite that good, you know, Prince would still be here, you know, Amy
Absolutely.
Winehouse would still be here, Robin Williams would still be here, Caroline Flack would still be here. You know, the big houses don't count for anything when, you know, you're really in a bad way. And I managed to just about get out, and I thought I had. And then you know, the cancer came, and breast cancer came, and I was just depleted. And then the universe just decided to, you know, have a bit of a laugh with me, really. So in an 18-month period, my father had a stroke on my birthday, and back in England, so I'm flying back to England. My kids are going into free fall, really. With hindsight, my ex-husband was having a sort of a protracted nervous breakdown, really, because he discovered that the family company he'd taken over was bankrupt. Yeah, and couldn't kind of bring himself to admit it to anybody, and least of all me, because he'd moved us all over there. I discovered I had the breast cancer. I'm going having treatment in America. We moved to an out island so that we can live in a really healthy way by the sea and on what was an organic farm, but it's very isolating. My kids hate it. You know, 6-year-olds don't appreciate the most beautiful beach in the world. They're like, oh, it's really boring. You know, where are my friends? We didn't even have TV. And then my mum got terminal pancreatic cancer, and my marriage all the time was just going doof, doof, crumble, 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 crumble. All the time I'm thinking, at least we've got all that money in the bank. You know, everything I've just sacrificed my health and life for, it's all there. And then I discovered we didn't have all the money in the bank, because my ex had been using it to prop his father's company up, and, you know, some other stuff. And so everything I thought, you know, I'd almost sacrificed everything for was gone. I didn't have the house in London. I didn't have my health. I didn't have my well, I managed to get back to England in time to see my mum die. And my dad was in a bad way because he'd had the stroke, and he wasn't, you know, he just lost his wife, and I'm still having treatment, and my kids are in free fall. It was horrendous. I mean, truly.
I mean, it's stripping you back to the absolute core.
There was nothing left, you know. I'd left in a blaze of glory, you know, kind of with this big house and money in the bank, thinking I'd never need to work again, life in the Bahamas. I've pulled it off, and I come back and I'm a single unemployed mum in a rented house in Arnold with my kids.
Yeah.
You know, that.
Very grounding experience.
Yes. I know a lot about the ego, Lisa, and that is the moment when everything that you have as an ego is taken away, but then you truly find yourself. You know, you truly find yourself. Then you truly find what is in the very core of my being. Who truly am I? What is important to me? Because everything else is kind of gone, all the other attributes and everything. And so, yeah, I came through that, you know, and I wouldn't advocate it.
No.
And there were some very dark nights. But therapy got me through. I had a lot of CBT at the time. The grounding I had as a girl growing up as a grocer's daughter, my faith, actually, I always had a faith. My faith got me through. All that stuff I'd learned with those personal development people. You know, I literally got all my manuals out from Mastery University with Tony and all the books and started rereading them. It was like I knew the mothership was out there and I could get back to her. And you know, and I did. I ended up being Insight and Innovation Director for a training and development company. Go Mad Thinking, who are great, and they do lots of corporate training. I then remarried. That seemed like a good idea at the time. And I then thought, I really want to give something back. I felt that I was in such a good place. And so I became head of marketing and communications for an international charity, the Leprosy Mission, which arguably helps the most marginalized people in the world, because people with leprosy, even in India, they're below the untouchables.
Yeah.
So, boy, if you want to be grounded, let me tell you, standing in Mumbai on a disgustingly hot day under a freeway with 6 lanes of traffic going above you, with people who live below the freeway in tarpaulin, with leprosy, with no fingers on their hands, being offered a custard cream, which is probably the equivalent to their day's wages, really puts everything into perspective, you know? And so, it was an amazing experience. Sadly, during that time, the menopause kicked in, and because I'd had breast cancer, I had an early, very aggressive menopause, and it's still hanging on. And my second marriage, faltered because we'd not really examined our values and why we'd, for me it was a kind of a rescue. And very soon we both discovered we were actually very different people. So sad to say that didn't work. So I'm going through the menopause, which I really did have a hard time at first. I kind of really lost myself again.
Yeah. I think people can underestimate the impact of that shift in life for a woman. I think they can really underestimate the physical and the emotional and mental aspects of that.
I would say for me, it was probably the hardest thing I've ever been through, Lisa, because there's me. I'm like the queen of, resetting or reinvention. And I've come through all of that. And then I'm like, who am I? I can't even remember what day of the week it was. I'm putting weight on, I'm not sleeping. It's really, when you have it hard, it's really terrible. And at the time, 15 years ago, it wasn't really being talked about the way it is now. So I didn't even go to work and say, look, I can't come in today because I don't even know who I am. I'm in a management position. How can I say that? So I sort of struggled on. I know now because I'm friends with Deborah Garlick and Menopause in the Workplace, and I think they're amazing, and I love what they're doing. But it was a bit lonely and hard when I came through it. So then that all happened, and so it led me again to kind of go, oh, hello.
Who am I again?
This feels a little bit familiar, particularly when my dad died on my 50th birthday.
Impeccable timing. Yeah, not going to forget that.
Never forget that date. So it was a bit like, wow, this feels familiar. Time for a change. And then at that time, synchronicity, because I do really believe in the universe, synchronicity. When I look back on my life more and more, I see, the door closed and the window open, and the synchronicity, and literally an angel, and somebody says something to me and something happens. I've had a lot of that. It's amazing. And now I kind of am a lot more, let's see what happens. So I got this email from Marissa Peer saying, I'm starting a brand new training course. I've been, registered to do a new school in a new type of hypnotherapy. I think you'd be brilliant, because I'd met her in the 90s. I actually went as a client. I went to her, and then I met her at Tony Robbins in Maui, Hawaii. So we were friends. And she went, I think you'd make a brilliant therapist. And I think my answer was, well, I've certainly had a lot of therapy. So I just thought, why not? Let's see where this goes. And I absolutely did take to it like a duck to water, because I think the transferable skills I had were communication. I've always been good with people because of my PR background. You have to read people, you have to understand people, you have to create rapport. I had that massive grounding, 20 years of NLP and all those things. I also can really be empathetic because I can walk in people. People come into me and they'll say things like, I can hardly bear to tell you. And I'm like, no, truly, try me. It's like,
I think life experience, the journey that you've been through as well, I think, everybody's got their own story, but, it is that life experience that you bring to being a therapist as well, that, that adds a depth to empathy, doesn't it? It adds a depth to that understanding of other people. And, you know, nothing is wasted if it's recycled. All of that experience is not wasted if you're recycling it into what you're creating now.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. And what happened was a few years ago, I started telling my story. Because although I'm clearly a good communicator, you know, when I was in PR, it was the power behind the throne. You know, like the Wizard of Oz, I was behind the curtain,
yeah,
cranking the wheel. You know, I wasn't out center stage. So I started telling my story. Like I went on Girls Around Town on Radio Newark, told my story. At the end of it, they said, "Would you like to join the team?" You know,
fantastic,
literally,
yeah.
when the microphone was turned off, and I was like, "Well, why not? Yeah, I'd love it." And then people kept saying you should write a book. So I thought, well, why not? I'm very good at writing, and the time felt right. I felt able to tell it in a balanced way because the pain wasn't raw. I think sometimes it's hard if you're going through that dark night of the soul or that difficult thing to, you know, to clearly articulate it in a, you know, in a balanced way. But I'd had enough distance and time and settling, particularly with the therapeutic training I'd had, you know, and I'd been able to understand actually some of my actions. And I looked back on some of the things I'd done with a lot more compassion for myself.
Yes.
You know, because it was like, no, I wasn't a bad mom in that moment. I was just utterly overwhelmed.
And doing the best you could at that moment.
I could in the circumstances that, you know, I had. And so I think that self-compassion and that self-forgiveness that I really, firstly because of working at the charity, I think, and seeing people in these reduced, terrible circumstances. And then secondly, because of the training in therapy and then in coaching, I then added an NLP coaching training to it. I just started to have a lot more compassion for myself, you know, imagining I was almost my client. And so I was able to tell my story, I think, with a lot more balance and a lot more grace than I might have been able to tell it, you know, 5 years earlier. And then I found that it really spoke to people, and people were saying to me, "Oh my God, I read your story, and like really, oh my God, I didn't think anybody else felt like that or thought like that." And so now I've been, you know, I've got 4 books and I broadcast a lot, as you know. I'm about to start my own podcasts. And I actually, without sounding like, you know, woo-woo, I kind of see everything that's led to this moment as being for a reason now.
Yes,
I really do. You know, why would a woman who can communicate and talk to people go through all of that and then become a therapist and a coach? And of course I heal people one-on-one, but I do speak my story now, and I do step up, which at first was actually really uncomfortable because I was being behind the curtain and I didn't like it. Funny as that might sound, I really didn't. The weekend before my book was published, I spent the weekend in pajamas crying, going, "I don't want to go in my interview." Because it was about me.
You're laying your life out there and being vulnerable and laying your life out there for all to see. It's like putting your dirty washing out in public, isn't it?
Terrible. Whereas before, you know, I'm the spokesperson for, you know, Air Miles, or I'm the spokesperson, I worked for London Zoo, you know, like I'm the spokesperson for why we have animals in zoos. I know that's contentious, but, you know, when you're a PR person, you are that mouthpiece, you are that spokesperson. I never had any trouble with that because obviously I was talking about, but when it was about me, it was like, oh, you know.
But there is something so powerful in that. Like you say, you know, when you speak out, when you share your vulnerability, warts and all, and the highs and the lows of your personal journey, it gives permission for others to do the same.
And that's what keeps me going, absolutely 100%. Because even after I launched my first book, I was a bit like, ooh. And then I got a tweet, a private message on Twitter from somebody who I'd been following, who is actually quite high profile. They're in the public eye. And she said to me, "I read your book and I've just admitted to my husband that I've been bulimic for 15 years. And she said,
Yeah.
I've never, ever told a soul before, but your book gave me the courage to confront that, and I'm now getting treatment for it. And I kind of thought, you know what? If that's all my book ever does, my work here is done in a way. That
Yeah.
was
If it makes a difference to one person, then it has been worthwhile. But
Yeah.
I'm sure it has made a difference to many, many lives.
Yeah, no, it does. I do get the feedback. It's lovely. So, yeah, so that's me really. I'm now, what else can I tell you? After 2 divorces, I did a lot of work on myself 3 years ago, because I felt like I'd really got balance in most parts of my life, but not that part of my life. And so I went away. I did a lot of work. I went to a bunch of workshops overseas. I worked with the world's leading relationship experts, Esther Perel, Dan Savage, everybody really. I did the whole Catherine Woodward Thomas Calling in the One. So I even had feng shui in my house. You know, I'm like, you know, but I had to learn to love myself. I had to learn to kind of work on me and be alone for a little while.
Yeah.
And after doing that, and it took a while, I'm now in the best relationship of my life, you know. And so I did online dating in my 50s, and I went out there again and was vulnerable, and, you know, kissed a few frogs.
Until you found your prince. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that's been a, you know, a personal part of my journey. So now, yeah, here I am.
And you're in Lincolnshire now?
Yeah, so my house is in Newark, and my partner is in Lincolnshire, and we decided to go into lockdown together. You know, it's like, let's see how this experiment works.
Yeah.
And actually, it's worked incredibly well. And so I will be moving permanently to Lincolnshire in the next few months. I'm not quite sure when, but you know, I'm only an hour away from Newark, so
yes.
You know, it's really, you know, no big deal. But yeah. So I'm going to end up a Lincolnshire lass.
Yes. And still continuing to do your amazing work as a transformational therapist and coach. I guess you can work with anybody anywhere in the world.
I'm very lucky because I built up a very good reputation very quickly. 70% of my clients were already on Zoom anyway, because, you know, they were all over the world. I did see clients face to face in Newark. I used to see clients in London, and then I just decided, you know, I didn't need to really. So yes, so my business has continued, and I, you know, Zoom, believe it or not, and I'm probably,
we're in Zoom now.
to the converted, but it works for hypnotherapy, for rapid transformational therapy. It works just as well as face to face. In fact, I often think it possibly even works better, because I think you're very focused on each other. The person hasn't had a horrible journey trying to get to your house and find parking and all the stresses of all of that. You know, and you get on with the session and you give each other your absolute undivided attention. So yes, I'm able to, continue my business. And I've been on Zoom for like three and a half years.
So you're old hat at this whole Zoom explosion then? Well,
I got a bit cross, actually, to be honest with you, Lisa, because I have like the paid for account, and it always was absolutely seamless. And then the last few months, there's all, because obviously the world and their dog are on Zoom. You know,
yes, doing family quizzes and things like that.
I do too, just so you know. But yeah, so yes, there's been a few challenges, but. I think the great thing about lockdown is we're all a lot more human. Yes. I don't think we all feel we have to turn up being perfect, and we all know that, you know, clearly in a therapy session the dog won't wander in, but you know, maybe on a networking call or an interview, you know, somebody wanders in the room and stuff. And I think people are a lot more. Some of the corners have gone off everybody. I quite like it, actually.
Yeah, it's become, as you say, much more human. Wow, thank you for sharing your journey with us today. What a journey, what a life experience to this point, and the best is yet to come, I'm sure.
I agree. Look, here it is. People, this is a really funny thing. People say to me, they go, "Oh, what an amazing life you've had." And I go, having.
Having, yeah, the best is yet to come. So what get a life moment tip would you leave us with today then, Rosalind?
So look, I've had all those years when I've had books and shelves full of stuff, and yet you wake up and you're having a really bad day and you think, how do I get through today? How do I just navigate this world, my reality? So I have this core philosophy called the 5F. So you've got 5 fingers, well, technically 4 and a thumb, but you've got 5 fingers for sake of argument. And where people go wrong in life is where you don't have balance. And the 5 F's that create a life of balance are faith, fitness, friends, family, and finance. And if you think about somebody like John Paul Getty, he had finance, but he didn't have any of the others. You know,
yes.
not a healthy, happy, well-balanced man. Mother Teresa, faith in bucket loads, friends, yes, all her sisters, family, her sisters, and the poor
yes, yeah.
Fitness, she lived to be about 100, and her mind was brilliant. And finance, arguably, she took a vow of poverty, but she channeled money through her, because money is energy. So a very, very, very wealthy woman. So every day I ask myself, right, what today am I going to do for my faith? Is that a walk in nature? Is that meditation? Is it connecting to whatever's right for you? Who of my friends do I need to connect with? How am I going to connect with them? How am I going to be a friend? How do I show up as a friend? Family, what's happening with my family? What do I need to do? And look, some people don't like their family, but that's your tribe, okay?
Yes.
That's your tribe. You create your family, even if you don't like your actual birth family, that's fine. Fitness, body and mind controls the body, body controls the mind. You know, what am I going to do today? I'm going to move, I'm going to do some yoga, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm also going to rest. I need 9 hours sleep. I'm going to get 9 hours sleep. You know, I'm going to help my brain. And finance, what am I going to do today to bring money? How am I going to work on my business? And also, how am I going to pay it forward? Yes. Trust me, if you check in with that every day, and every day you won't get it right, but every day you'll go, well, I neglected that today, so I'll do more of it tomorrow. You will have a life of balance and joy.
Fantastic. What a great thing to end on. Great piece of advice to end on. It's been my absolute pleasure having you on Get a Life Moment today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.